Ladies and gentlemen, let me be clear from the start. You don't lose when you fail, you lose when you quit. The phrase, "it's not over until you win," isn't just motivational. It's a principle, a system, a strategy. The path to building anything meaningful is paved with rejection, disappointment, and setback after setback. If you're doing something that matters, it will be hard, it will be uncertain. People will doubt you. Sometimes you will doubt yourself. Good, that means you're on the right track. When you're pushing boundaries, failure isn't an anomaly. It's a necessary component of progress. It's data. It tells you what doesn't work. It refines your thinking, and if you're paying attention, it sharpens your approach. You must build a relationship with failure that is respectful, not fearful. Every great achievement in history, whether it was technological, scientific, artistic, or entrepreneurial, was forged by people who refused to stop. They didn't always know the answers, but they knew one thing: quitting was not an option. That's what separates success from mediocrity. Not intelligence, not luck, relentlessness. So when you reach the point where most people would stop, that's when you keep going. That's when you learn to ignore the noise. That's when you double down. There will be nights when you feel like it's over, but ask yourself, have I won yet? If the answer is no, then it's not over. Keep building, keep failing, keep learning, keep going. Because it's not over until you win. Thank you. Relentless perseverance is the defining factor between temporary effort and lasting impact. In any endeavor that aims to push boundaries, obstacles are not optional. They are inevitable. When you confront resistance, it is not a sign that you're failing. It's often confirmation that you are moving towards something meaningful. The most impactful ventures in history, whether in science, business, or human rights, faced opposition, delays, and repeated failures. Yet what separates those who succeed from those who remain average is not superior resources or perfect timing, but a refusal to stop in the face of adversity. Every challenge, whether technical, logistical, emotional, or social, is an opportunity for calibration. It reveals the weak links in your system, highlights assumptions that need updating, and forces you to adapt in real time. Most people interpret challenges as signs to turn back. The committed few see them as markers on the map, proof that they're no longer wandering in circles, but moving forward. Obstacles provide information. They tell you where the friction lies, where energy is being lost, and where reinvention is necessary. Treating these moments as directional cues instead of dead ends allows you to stay agile and progress under pressure. There's an inherent psychological barrier. Most individuals encounter the moment things stop going according to plan. When the first failure hits, it's tempting to start rewriting the vision to make it smaller, safer, and less ambitious. But perseverance, in its truest form, requires the ability to hold on to a clear end state even when your current circumstances suggest otherwise. It means operating with a long-term lens while enduring short-term discomfort. It means continuing to act despite doubt, both external and internal. The internal voice that questions your capability is often the loudest. The discipline to move forward anyway, even when belief is low, is where real growth begins. Relentless perseverance also requires disconnection from the need for immediate validation. If you need applause to keep moving, your drive is conditional. That's not perseverance, that's performance. The type of endurance that leads to real innovation is intrinsically motivated. You have to believe in the mission, even when no one else sees its value. The early days of any bold project are marked by silence, skepticism, and solitude. During those phases, progress is often invisible. There are no rewards, there's no celebration, just effort, quiet, repetitive, and often thankless. But it's in those phases that momentum is built, and over time, that invisible work compounds into visible results. From an operational standpoint, perseverance is also a logistical discipline. It is not enough to simply want to keep going. You must engineer a system that allows you to. That includes rigorous problem solving, feedback loops, and constant iteration. When things break, and they will, you fix them. When a plan collapses, you redesign it. You remove inefficiencies, build redundancies, and streamline execution. It is not a matter of surviving the storm. It's about learning to work effectively within it. That distinction matters especially in high-risk, high-reward environments. Relentless perseverance demands an understanding that progress is non-linear. There will be days of exponential growth and months of apparent stagnation. Some weeks you move an inch, other days you leap forward unexpectedly. Your ability to maintain consistency during the flat periods is what sets the stage for breakthrough moments. People often quit not because they lack ability, but because they misjudge the time curve. They assume progress should be proportional to effort in a linear way, but the reality is, consistent effort often yields delayed but dramatic results. The key is staying the course long enough for that compounding effect to take hold. Lastly, perseverance is not just about personal resilience. It affects the team, the culture, and the entire ecosystem surrounding a mission. When you persist in the face of adversity, you give others permission to do the same. You create a model of what's possible when commitment is greater than comfort. And over time, that culture of endurance becomes self-sustaining. In organizations and teams, this mindset scales. When perseverance becomes normalized, failure no longer triggers panic. It activates problem solving. That's when real innovation becomes not only possible, but inevitable. Failure is often misunderstood. It's not an endpoint. It's not a verdict on your intelligence, ability, or future potential. It is simply information. It's raw, unfiltered feedback from reality telling you that something in your assumptions, design, execution, or timing needs adjustment. Those who advance in any competitive or innovative field learn early on to decouple their ego from the event of failure. They stop taking it personally. Instead, they study it objectively, analytically, and without emotion clouding the data. Failure becomes a report card from reality, and if you read it correctly, it will guide your next iteration more accurately than any theoretical plan. In high-stakes innovation, failure is not a side effect. It's part of the process. If you are attempting to build something that has never existed before, or solve a problem that has never been solved, the odds that you'll get it right on the first attempt are nearly zero. The earlier you make peace with that fact, the faster you'll progress. You cannot innovate without risk, and you cannot take real risks without the possibility and probability of failure. If your goals are meaningful, you should expect failure to be a frequent visitor. What matters is what you extract from it. Each failure contains a signal buried in the noise. The most successful individuals and teams develop the capacity to extract that signal quickly and use it to recalibrate their actions. They run diagnostics, they reverse, engineer the result. They don't waste time feeling embarrassed or defeated. Instead, they treat failure as a diagnostic tool. It becomes a learning instrument. It tells you where the system broke, where human judgment misfired, where assumptions proved wrong, or where timing was off. The goal isn't to avoid failure, it's to fail intelligently and extract insights that improve the next version of the system. Culturally, most environments punish failure, which teaches people to hide it rather than learn from it. In high-performance organizations, that mindset has to be rewired. When failure is treated as data, it becomes safe to experiment. Teams take bolder steps, knowing that even if an experiment fails, the data will inform the next move. This is critical in fields like aerospace, software development, or deep tech engineering domains where the unknown outweighs the known, and progress is only possible through iteration. You build, you test, you fail, you learn, then you repeat. Every cycle of that loop improves the system. Over time, those cycles build resilience, precision, and breakthrough results. In practical terms, embracing failure as data also demands rigorous documentation. You cannot fix what you do not understand. After a failed attempt, it's essential to record what happened, isolate variables, and analyze the timeline and decisions involved. This is not glamorous work, but it is foundational. The value of a failed launch, a collapsed product rollout, or a broken algorithm lies not in the failure itself, but in the forensic insight it provides. If you treat every mistake as a black box, dissect it, and understand its internal logic, you will emerge with a roadmap more valuable than any success story. Emotionally, embracing failure requires emotional discipline. You have to train yourself to respond to it not with shame, panic, or discouragement, but with curiosity. Ask, what exactly broke? Why did it break? Was it a design flaw, a misjudgment of the user, a breakdown in communication, a timing mismatch with the market? Precision in these questions will produce precision in your next steps. The moment you switch your mindset from "I failed" to "this failed," why, you begin to reclaim control. That psychological switch is often the dividing line between those who stagnate and those who evolve. Failure is also the fastest teacher. There are lessons you can only learn when things go wrong. Success often hides inefficiencies. A successful result may reinforce flawed logic simply because it happened to work in a narrow context. Failure, on the other hand, is loud. It exposes the truth, and the more painful the failure, the more unforgettable the lesson. People remember what breaks. They remember what cost them time, energy, or resources. That memory sharpens future decision-making. It forces you to double-check assumptions and fortify weak links. Painful failure is often a one-time event if you are smart enough to truly learn from it. Ultimately, every successful venture, career, or invention is built on a foundation of failed attempts that were treated as inputs, not endpoints. Those who thrive are those who do not stop at failure. They do not fear it, they expect it, they mine it for insights, they adapt, they build again, and every failure becomes another brick in the architecture of success, not because it was avoided, but because it was understood, absorbed, and repurposed into something better. Long-term thinking is the foundation of any substantial achievement. When your vision is oriented decades into the future rather than days or months, your relationship with pain, pressure, and setbacks begins to change. You stop reacting emotionally to daily fluctuations and start optimizing for the bigger picture. The real differentiator between those who build legacy and those who stay stuck in mediocrity is the ability to delay gratification. It is the ability to endure present discomfort for future results that are significant, durable, and transformative. The mind that plays the long game doesn't get derailed by short-term turbulence. It expects it and is engineered to navigate through it. Every meaningful goal, whether technological, personal, or organizational, demands a horizon that stretches beyond the convenience of the moment. That means you must learn to withstand phases of stagnation, criticism, ambiguity, and sacrifice without losing sight of what you're building. Temporary pain becomes a cost of doing work that matters. You stop expecting ease. You stop seeking constant validation. Instead, you build stamina. The discomfort becomes normalized. You learn to make decisions not for how they feel today, but for what they unlock in 5, 10, or even 50 years. This orientation builds durability into both your mindset and your systems. When you're committed to a long-term outcome, you begin to operate by a different set of principles. You don't chase trends, you build infrastructure. You don't optimize for short-term optics, you optimize for structural integrity. You make decisions that may not pay off immediately, but when they do, they scale exponentially. Most people are unwilling to do this. They want immediate results, and when those results don't appear fast enough, they pivot, retreat, or abandon the mission. That's the mistake. Because the most valuable results often compound invisibly below the surface for months or years before they emerge in tangible form, long-term thinkers understand that time is a strategic asset. They don't view time as something to be avoided or minimized. They view it as leverage. A project that matures over 5 years with deep investment in quality, talent, and innovation is fundamentally different from something patched together in 5 weeks to impress an investor or hit a deadline. Speed matters, but sustainability matters more. In any field where precision, complexity, or scale are involved, rushing is expensive. Building correctly the first time, even if it takes longer, saves energy, resources, and reputation in the long run. There is a psychological component to this that most overlook. Thinking long-term requires emotional endurance. It means you have to become comfortable operating without recognition, without applause, and often without clear external signs of progress. You must learn to self-generate motivation, to be guided by internal vision rather than external approval. This is not easy, but it's necessary if your ambition extends beyond short-term wins and into the realm of world-class outcomes. The ability to stay focused on the mission while the world around you is measuring success in clicks, likes, or quarterly returns is a rare skill, and a powerful one. Systems that succeed over time are built with mechanisms that absorb short-term volatility. This applies to personal habits, company culture, product design, and strategic direction. If your system collapses under the weight of temporary pain, it was never built to last. Long-term thinking forces you to architect systems with flexibility, redundancy, and resilience. You begin to prioritize foundational integrity over superficial gains. You realize that short-term pain is not a threat. It is a test of your commitment, your structure, and your clarity. Investing in long-term vision also allows you to take smarter risks. You can afford to be misunderstood, to be underestimated, even to fail publicly, because your strategy isn't based on winning today, it's based on winning ultimately. You start to view mistakes as part of the timeline rather than disruptions. This reduces fear. It also builds consistency. While others are busy recalibrating to chase the latest trend or appease the nearest critic, long-term thinkers are building, iterating, and gaining ground in silence. That gap eventually becomes insurmountable. Sacrifices are inevitable. If your goals are worth pursuing, they will come with a cost. You may lose comfort, convenience, or short-term profit. You may endure skepticism, financial strain, or personal fatigue. But those costs are not wasted. They are investments. Investments that compound over time into outcomes others will eventually call overnight success. Even though you know better, you paid for those results with patience, pain, and years of invisible work. And when those results arrive, they are not fleeting. They endure because they were built on strategy, sacrifice, and the discipline to think long past the moment. Innovation is not an event. It is a relentless process of iteration, resistance, and recalibration. World-changing ideas do not emerge fully formed and frictionless. They are forged in the crucible of rejection, miscalculation, and opposition. Grit is not optional in this process. It is the core operating system. Without it, even the most brilliant ideas collapse under pressure. Grit enables persistence in the face of technical challenges, emotional exhaustion, and external disbelief. It's what bridges the gap between raw concept and actual execution. The real test of an innovator is not whether the idea is novel, but whether the person behind it is willing to endure the grind required to make it real. Breakthrough innovations often appear glamorous in hindsight, but they are built on years of back-end failure and daily struggle. What the public sees as genius is often just relentless endurance applied to a single problem over an extended period of time. The first version rarely works. The second might not either. Sometimes it takes 5, 10, or 20 iterations before the mechanism stabilizes, the market responds, or the design finally aligns with reality. During this time, the innovator faces constant doubt from others and within themselves. It is grit alone that keeps the process alive when the results aren't yet validating the effort. Most people are seduced by the initial excitement of a new idea, but abandon it the moment it becomes uncomfortable. The truth is, innovation is uncomfortable. It requires operating in environments of uncertainty, with incomplete data, limited resources, and a high risk of failure. You are often building something that has no precedent, which means there's no script to follow, no guarantee of success, and no cushion of predictability. This is where grit separates those who dream from those who deliver. The ability to stay in the discomfort long enough to find a solution is a defining characteristic of real innovation. Grit doesn't mean ignoring problems or charging ahead recklessly. It means solving one hard problem after another without giving up. It means showing up when it's boring, when it's hard, when it's unclear if the outcome is worth it. Some of the most revolutionary advancements were made not by the most brilliant minds, but by those who were simply more determined, more patient, and more intolerant of giving up. When others pivoted or quit, they stayed, they rebuilt, they optimized, they kept going. Over time, that grind produced progress that no shortcut could replicate. There is also a cultural component to this principle. In any team or organization attempting bold work, grit must be embedded into the culture. Teams need to know that setbacks are not failures. They are signals to adapt. They need leadership that models endurance and encourages iteration instead of punishing missteps. When grit is normalized, a team is more likely to experiment, take risks, and recover quickly from failed attempts. Innovation cannot flourish in an environment that demands perfection. It flourishes in one that rewards effort, learning, and tenacity. From a structural standpoint, grit means building systems that can survive repeated failure. This applies to engineering, strategy, finance, and morale. It means designing redundancies, anticipating breakdowns, and embedding flexibility. Innovation by its nature involves entering unknown terrain. You need a structure that can stretch, bend, and recover. Because it will be tested repeatedly, the goal is not to avoid being hit. The goal is to absorb the hit and still move forward. Grit is not about being invincible. It's about being unbreakable. Psychologically, grit also requires a mindset that decouples identity from failure. You must learn to fail without internalizing it. To innovate effectively, you have to protect your confidence while still being brutally honest about your results. You have to believe in your capacity to figure it out, even when evidence suggests otherwise. This is not delusion, it's discipline. It's the discipline to keep showing up, even when the scoreboard says you're losing. Because if the work matters and the mission is clear, the only real failure is quitting. Over time, grit becomes a competitive advantage. As others drop out, your persistence compounds, your understanding of the problem deepens, your designs improve, your reputation for endurance grows, investors notice. Teams rally, systems evolve, eventually you break through, but that breakthrough is never luck. It is the result of hundreds, if not thousands, of decisions to keep going when quitting would have been easier. Innovation is not defined by the idea. It's defined by the ability to bring that idea into the world, no matter how long it takes or how hard it gets. Adaptability is the core mechanism by which individuals and organizations survive in complex, fast-moving environments. In a world where technology evolves rapidly, market conditions shift overnight, and unpredictable challenges emerge constantly, rigidity is a liability. The ability to assess new information, reframe your understanding, and adjust course without ego is what defines long-term winners. Most people overcommit to the first version of their idea, their strategy, or their process. When reality proves it flawed, they resist change. But adaptability demands the opposite mindset. It demands that you remain fluid, responsive, and open to reinvention at every stage of execution. The first version of anything bold will almost always be wrong. Whether it's a prototype, a business model, or a mission roadmap, your early attempts will be filled with blind spots. That's not a defect. It's a natural consequence of exploring uncharted territory. What matters isn't how right you were on day one. What matters is how fast you can recognize what's broken, absorb new data, and make intelligent adjustments. The faster you can iterate, the faster you move towards success. Adaptability shortens the feedback loop between action and improvement. It transforms failure into information and uncertainty into an advantage. Learning fast is not just about absorbing information. It's about integrating that knowledge into your systems and behavior in real time. In practice, this means having mechanisms in place to test assumptions, gather user feedback, analyze failures, and adjust direction without delay. Adaptable systems are not reactive. They are proactive. They seek out error. They hunt for inefficiency. They operate with a constant hypothesis testing mindset where every action is both execution and experiment. When you embed this mode of learning into your daily operations, change stops feeling like chaos and starts functioning like strategy. At an individual level, adaptability requires cognitive agility and emotional maturity. You must be willing to say, "I was wrong," without seeing that admission as weakness. You must be able to drop an old model, even one you built yourself, when evidence shows it's no longer valid. This is difficult for most people because identity often becomes entangled with ideas, but innovation punishes attachment. The longer you cling to outdated frameworks, the more vulnerable you become to irrelevance. The most adaptable thinkers are those who value truth more than pride, outcome more than authorship. Adaptability also depends on the willingness to abandon sunk costs. Time, energy, or capital already spent should never justify continuing down a path that no longer makes sense. It takes discipline to kill a product line, sunset a service, or completely reorient a business model. But in high-stakes environments, that discipline is what separates those who scale from those who stall. The point is not to avoid making mistakes. The point is to stop compounding them. Pivoting at the right moment is not a sign of confusion. It's a sign of clarity. It shows you're paying attention. At the organizational level, adaptability must be engineered into the culture. Teams should be trained to expect change, not fear it. Processes should be designed to evolve as new insights arise. Communication should be transparent, so decisions can be made quickly and with alignment. Bureaucracy and rigid hierarchies kill adaptability because they delay response time. In fast-moving markets, delay is death. The companies that thrive are those where information flows fast, authority is decentralized, and iteration is embedded into the work cycle. These environments encourage experimentation, and when failure happens, they recover faster because change is already part of the design. Technology also amplifies the need for adaptability. In almost every domain, from AI to energy to transportation, the ground is shifting faster than most people can comprehend. What worked last year may be obsolete tomorrow. That's why systems, processes, and people must all be built for evolution. This does not mean constantly switching direction without cause. It means constantly updating your map based on new terrain. Static maps in a dynamic environment lead to disaster. Living maps, those updated through constant feedback, are what enable intelligent navigation through complexity. Psychologically, adaptability reduces stress. When you are rigid, every deviation from the plan feels like a threat. But when you are adaptable, change feels like opportunity. You stop fearing uncertainty and start leveraging it. This mindset builds resilience. It also enhances creativity. The most adaptive minds are often the most inventive because they are comfortable with ambiguity. They are not looking for certainty. They are looking for clues. This allows them to explore untested ideas, take unconventional paths, and discover solutions that linear thinkers miss. Over time, adaptability compounds. Each adjustment you make, each pivot you execute, each lesson you integrate makes you faster, smarter, and more aligned with reality. This compounding effect creates a competitive moat. One not built on rigid systems, but on the ability to outlearn and outmaneuver. In high-risk, high-reward endeavors, that agility becomes your most valuable asset. Because while others are trying to perfect their initial idea, you're already on your fifth version, and each one is better, sharper, and more aligned with where the world is heading.